Hi, I welcome you all. In this video, I will explain you about the UML diagrams. About the introduction also, I will explain over here. Along with introduction, let I try to explain you about the use case diagram also, right? So we will get into the video. First, I will explain you what is UML, right? UML stands for Unified Modeling Language. Remember, this is modeling language. It is not a programming language. And why we are using this unified modeling language, in short, UML. So through this UML, you can visually represent and explain how a software application works, which means when you are involved in developing a software application, and particularly in the design part, you can make use of this unified modeling language. So in the design part, we will be using some symbols, right, for explaining, for demonstrating the diagrams. So there we will have these UML diagrams. So this will show you the structure and behavior of your application, right? So this is all about the UML introduction. So in simple, if you want to have a very clear idea about UML, so it can be stated as seeing how the system looks. Visualize means you can check how the system will be available, right? And telling exactly what the system will do. So you will have the specifications of the system, like how you will be having the label for a diagram. It will specify what are all the components available in your system. And it will explain you how the system works, right? So by with the label, right, we will be explaining, we will have the descriptions, right? So it will explain how the system works. Then keeping a record of system design. So we will have the documentation of the entire working principle. So this is all about the introduction of the unified modeling language. Right. Now, what are all the various perspectives through which it can be visualized? So that is the next question. So when we are using this UML, we can look at a system from three different angles or perspectives, which means it is having some angles, different perspectives. One is called the most important thing, which is called conceptual perspective. See, conceptual means, see, only the concept wise, you will look into a system. You will look how the system will work. That is called the conceptual perspective. So it focuses on the big idea or concepts. What are all the concepts it is needed to be included? So that is the conceptual perspective. So here you cannot find any technical details about the system. And this will be useful for discussing with the clients and non-technical people. See, when you are getting into a project, we always used to have the discussions with the clients and team members, right? So there we will be always discussing about the conceptual perspective, conceptual views. So that is one perspective. And moving into the second perspective, this is called specification, software specification perspective. So here we will describe what the system will do, what the system will actually do. What are all the specifications it will have, how it can be implemented in future. So here you can find a lot of technical details than the conceptual detail. So here you can find a different part, a different component of the system, how those components will interact with one another. After having such interactions, how the system will behave. So those things you can find in the second perspective, which is called the specification perspective. And the third perspective is called implementation perspective. Here, it will focus on how the system will be actually be built. So how it can be deployed. So those things we will discuss in this perspective. So how the real codes can be implemented, how a database can be incorporated, what may be the final system architecture, how it can be useful for the programmers and software designers and engineers. So all those things you can find at the last perspective. So these are all the three perspectives in which you can visualize your UML diagrams. So one is called the conceptual, second one is specification, and third one is the implementation. Basically, the UML diagrams can be classified under different categories, right? So here I have taken only the two category. One is called the structural category and another one is called behavioral category. See, depending upon the versions of UML, we know we are getting updated versions day by day, right? So according to the updations, the number of classifications will differ. So this is something related to UML 11, right? So if it is 12, 13 and other, you can even find so many classifications, but basically you can find in all those upgraded versions, these two classification. One is called structural and another one is called behavioral. And if you are having more, if you want to have more detail about the structural and behavioral, it can also be called as static view and dynamic view, right? We know the difference between what is static and dynamic. So let I take into the structural, right? So what I have given here in the slide, structural means it captures the static, right? It is not related to the dynamic aspect. So there are several diagrams you can find under UML. So when I am placing few diagrams under structural diagrams, so it will cover component, object diagram, class diagram, and deployment diagram. So we will move into the next part, which is the behavioral diagram. So here, this will capture the dynamic aspects, dynamic behavior of the system, unlike the structural, where we have done only the static, right? Where we have captured only the static information about the system. So under behavioral diagrams, I can have use case diagram, state chart diagram, activity diagram, and interaction diagrams. Please make a note. So between these structural and behavioral, now I have given some forms of UML diagram. Suppose when I'm listing these UML diagrams, I can start with the use case diagram, right? So finally, I can end with the deployment diagram. So these are all some of the diagrams you will be studying under UML. Right. Here I have given the detailed versions of the classifications. In most of the model, in most of the design part, the design engineers will be using all these diagrams for explaining their software development process, right? So you can see here, like use case diagram, class diagram, component diagram, deployment diagram, activity diagram, state chart diagram, collaborational diagram, and sequence diagram. See, we are having these many classifications, right? If you have counted these number of diagrams, I think it will cover around 8 diagrams, right? So probably you can have some 8 to 10 UML diagrams, right? Each diagram will explain or it will give information about the different perspectives of the usage of the design part. So that is how each of these diagrams is going to help the software developing team to understand the project. Okay, right? Yes. Now, the next one is the uh, understanding, how I can understand any use case diagram given, right? See, use case diagram. So now I have completed the introduction part of the UML. Now I have moved down to the first diagram, which is the use case diagram, right? So in this video, I am going to explain only the use case diagram. Yes. Now, what I'm trying to give explanation for the use case diagram. So when I'm having something called as a use case diagram, it will show the main functions of a system. So I can, in my diagram, surely I will have a system within which it will show the main function of the system and overall scope. Overall scope means up to which extent I can use this application. So that I can find in the use case diagram. Then with the help of use case diagram, I can be able to understand how the user is interacting with the system, right? So here technically, as per the diagram, I will say users as actors, right? So how the actors will interact with the system. So generally, use case diagram describe what the systems do, right? I told you already, it is a conceptual view. It is coming under the behavioral part. And it won't share how it works internally. Here we are not having any detailed description of how this is going to be worked, right? We are going to, just like a blueprint of the house, now we are placing all the components, right? All the components of a system, right? If even while I'm saying you the blueprint of the house, right? So here I can give system as a house, right? Suppose when I'm taking house as a system, Now, what are all the components I can have for the house, right? So like rooms, halls, right? So these are all the various components. Likewise, in the use case diagram, you can find the main functionalities of the system, right? I'm not going to worry about the internal functions, right? So that we will be having in the next part. So this diagram basically will have actors, use cases. Use cases are nothing but the functionalities and relationships. Relationship means the connectivity, how the actor is going to be connected, how the actor is going to interact with the functions. So those things you can find inside the use case diagram, right? So these are all the symbols and notations that we can use for a use case diagram representation. So actor, right? Maybe suppose if the actor is going to be the human being, you can make use of the symbol. And generally, the use cases, the functionalities will be provided, or it can be explained with this symbol, which just like a oval shaped symbol. So use case represents the functionality. In other way, it can be called as a behavior. So that should be denoted with this oval shaped symbol. And finally, the interaction. The interaction can be like through a solid arrowhead, right? Even there are many types of arrowhead. We will explain. I will try to explain those types of arrowheads in the later part of the discussion. So time being, you just remember this is the interaction, right? When I'm having interaction with the system, it can be represented by the arrow mark, right? Straight away, we'll go with one example. The example is going to be order management system, right? So here I am having a salesperson. See here, I told you user, right? The other name called actor, right? So now the actor is going to be the salesperson. We know, so how I am giving the name for the salesperson, because his role is going to be doing the sales, right? That is why I got the name salesperson. So his work is going to do the sale. So to whom he is going to do? With the customer. Yes. Now we will see how this can be represented using a use case diagram, right? See, this is only the part, right? Part of the use case diagram. This is not the entire or detailed use case diagram, right? So how I can represent? So as I told you, I'm having a human-like symbol. For that, I am giving a label called actor. And this actor is going to interact with the system. So my system is going to be order management, something like an order management, right? So in the order management, I will have so many functionalities. First, I need to get the order, right? That can be one. Otherwise, suppose if it is something like a hospital management, right? There I should get an appointment or make an appointment, right? So see, all those behaviors can be represented using a oval shaped symbol, and that is called use cases, right? So suppose when I want to have the diagram for the sales, right? Instead of make up an appointment, I can have sales as a one use case, doing sales, making sales, right? So this is how I can represent a functionality inside the use case diagram. So this is one functionality. You can include as many as functionality as per our requirement. Okay. Yes. Now, looking into the core element, already I told you what are all the things that I'm going to have inside the use case diagram. Usually it will have use cases, which will represent what the system do. Use cases represents the behavior, then actors. So actors, there are several types of actors. I will explain you later. So now, as per our use case diagram, we came across only actor, one type of actor. So whether the actor is going to be internal to the system or external to the system, which means inside the system or outside the system. And the actor is either the actor is going to be a person or any other like a machine. So in our example, we took person. That is why I represented like a human, right? A human like a symbol. And the next one is relationship. For relationship, I represented through an arrow mark. There are many types of relationship, as I told you. Only I have taken the arrow mark, right? Suppose if I want to include association, we are having some notation. If I want to have include, extend, generalization, these are all the different types of interaction, right? Different types through which the arrow marks. So basically, I have taken only the arrow mark, right? I told there are many types of arrow mark. So those many types can be used for association, include, extend, generalizations, right? So in this class, in this video, just I'm going to give basic introduction about the use case diagram. Okay. So generally, suppose if I'm getting a project, what are all the steps I need to follow for drawing a use case diagram? First, analyze the whole system, right? Like how before starting to construct a building, what are all the things that is required? Likewise, then find the functionalities. What are all the functionalities that I should have for my system? Then identify the actors, right? Who are all the people who is going to do or who is going to work with the system. Then identify the relationships, right? So, and one more most important thing is, see, don't think an actor can interact only with one behavior, right? Even he can interact with the multiple use cases, right? Here I have given a detailed diagram. So detailed diagram in the sense what I'm trying to say you is in the previous example, I have shown only one actor with one use cases. Here I have taken some three actors, right? When I'm explaining you the actors, I told you there are several types of actors like internal actor, external actor, right? So see here, salesman, because his role is going to do a sales, admin, right? Admin means he is going to be a human and customer. So what are all the functionalities or behavior I can have? Like manage customer, manage bill, manage payment. Similarly, manage users and applications, product, order. Otherwise, create order report, viewing invoice, making payment. Like these are all the behavior. Again, I'm saying you, when you are having a oval shaped symbol, then within which you should include only the behavior. Behavior means functionality of the system, right? This is all about the introduction of UML and use case diagrams, right? Thank you all.